Roads never ending, see no one for miles, but my dream caught ablaze to the sound of the siren.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Spoiler Warning Podcast. This is review number 813 with a review of A House of Dynamite. I'm Christopher Schnese.
And I'm Stephen Miller.
And if you're joining us for the first time, the Spoiler Warning Podcast is a weekly film review program. Each week on the show, we're going to dive in, debate, discuss, and argue over the latest films coming to a theater near you. This week, we already had a review of After the Hunt. Now we're talking about A House of Dynamite. Before we get started, Stephen, one question for you. Let's just pretend there's a, giant nuclear missile flying towards the United States. Let's just pretend it's coming to San Francisco.
Sure.
Would you want to know ahead of time, given how little time you have to react to it, or would you just like to, what's that sound, and then get vaporized?
Yeah, I think ignorance is bliss in situations like this. I guess honestly, a lot of this question kind of comes down to what the meaning of life is and if there's an afterlife, because I can see an argument in both directions, right? There's an argument to be made that if all you have is 19 minutes left, you want to maximize them in some way, right? Yeah. Like you want to do something that goes out on a high note that fully expresses everything you wanted to express. This is your last chance to be a person, right?
Yeah.
At the same time, there's an argument that who the fuck cares how you go out if you don't know right before it happens that you are about to go out. What good would it have done to make a mark? I guess I fall in the latter camp. I would rather just go about my day, but maybe have someone like call and tell me I won the lottery. Let me at least feel some intense high right before it happens.
I didn't even play.
Yeah. I spend my final few moments reporting a phishing scam.
I'm not going to send you $10,000 so you could later send me $100,000.
How about you? Would you rather know or not know?
Yeah, I feel like whenever these sort of situations happen in films, I mean, this exact situation doesn't usually happen, but I usually fall down on the side of, I don't know if I would want to know. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I definitely don't want a friggin' Amber Alert flying off my phone that says get to cover.
Right.
But I think it's one of those things where it's just kind of like, you know what? Obviously, if I was in the middle of an argument, I would want to be not in the middle of an argument if there was a missile flying towards me. But I don't know that there's much you can change about whatever your current situation is that would allow you to do many meaningful things in like the 16 minutes that you have. So I think just having it happen and be done. I guess the real question is, are you just on the edge of of like, you're not going to get incinerated in the blasts, but you're definitely not going to be happy, because then maybe you have some time to do something.
Right. That's true.
But yeah, now that we've had that joyous conversation,
do you have something you need to tell me?
Hey, Stephen, there's no missiles coming towards us right now.
Right.
I'll hold it for now.
Thank God.
But yeah, ready to get into this, Stephen?
Let's do it.
All right, let's take a listen to the trailer for A House of Dynamite and then come back and give everybody a review.
I always thought just being ready is the point. It keeps the villain in check. Keeps the world straight. They see how prepared we are. No one starts a nuclear war.
Approximately 3 minutes ago, we detected an ICBM over the Pacific. Current flight trajectory is consistent with impact somewhere in the continental United States.
Have we seen DEFCON 2 before? No.
Is this real?
STRATCOM is asking for launch instructions right now. I'm gonna need you to breathe.
We are talking about hitting a bullet with a bullet.
So it's a fucking coin toss? That's what $50 billion buys us?
Get in the car and just start driving.
If we do not take steps to neutralize our enemies now, we will lose our window to do so.
If we get this wrong, none of us are going to be alive tomorrow.
There is no plan B.
We did everything right? We did every fucking thing right.
None of this makes sense. Making all these bombs and all these plans. The walls are just ready to blow.
All right, so that was the trailer for A House of Dynamite. Basically, there's a single missile fired at the United States. Nobody knows where it came from or where it's going. And we have precious little time to figure out what the hell's happened and try to calibrate a proper response to it. Stephen Miller, what did you think of A House of Dynamite?
I'm confused by this movie. There's a few things this movie has going for it. First, let's just quickly run through the main cast of this movie. For those who don't want to hear it, you can skip ahead 45 minutes after we finish naming all the famous people.
It's basically like when they announced Phase 5 of Marvel.
Exactly, yeah. Yeah, they just pan, and I don't have a problem with a huge ensemble cast. I mean, come on, does everyone have to be famous? Couldn't the Caitlin Dever role go to some, poor, up-and-coming young actor? But anyway, this is a movie that very intentionally does not have a main character. It frames it as if it does, it builds it as if it does, but this is very much just a, 100-hander, And the second key thing about this movie, the reason it has so many actors, is this movie has a structure where it is showing the same event, a 19-minute countdown plus whatever preface happened before it, 3 different times from 3 different perspectives. It felt like more, but I checked online and it was only 3. I really feel like I watched that over and over and over again.
Well, it's like in each of the 3, there are disparate groups of people that are all being shown together. So it's like there's only 3 vignettes, but each one follows 3 different people who are not at the same location. So that's why you get that feeling that it's 9 or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. This movie is just, and the premise of it, I think, is very interesting. I totally get why they did it this way. The whole argument here is if potential nuclear war were to get started, here is how little time there is to respond. This is how close everything is on the brink of just falling apart. And the only way to squeeze a feature-length film from that is to loop, basically, and just show all the different pieces and all the different considerations that would happen, the mechanisms. This movie is kind of going from showing a procedural of just these are all the mechanisms that fall into place to, by the end, showing the closest it has to personal, right? Which is this is how it would feel for the decision makers, for the people who actually know, for the people who have some chance at making some kind of impact here.
Yeah.
That's interesting, but it's also very strange, because normally if I were doing a movie with 3 different looping perspectives, I would want there to be new information being revealed each time. I'd want there to be some kind of additive effect into how I, as a viewer, am feeling about what is happening. It is complicating the situation. It is making it more nuanced. It is increasing the stakes. It is bringing me another thing I hadn't considered before. And this movie doesn't really feel like it does that. I feel like every time it loops, I'm getting, I guess, more details about conversations that I already knew were happening from snippets before. I'm seeing it from another angle, Marty McFly style. But I don't feel like, with the exception of, I'm going to say, Idris Elba as the president toward the end, I don't feel like I'm having anything filled in that, beyond just giving me more information, actually makes me as a viewer be having a new experience or somehow feel the accelerating timeline in a different way.
But Steven, until the 3rd vignette, you didn't know if the president was just a dick who didn't like turning his camera on, or if he was on a satellite phone.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, you joke, but there is, what this movie feels to me, it's kind of like the culmination of the things about Kathryn Bigelow that are maybe interesting, but my least favorite parts about her movies, which is a very, very intensive obsession with how things really work in the military, how chain of command works, what all the details are, what it looks like when people respond to a situation. Because if you are into that stuff, this movie, assuming it is well researched, and it feels like it probably is, that's just the vibe I get from this movie, it has a lot to tell you, right? It has a lot to offer. If you are going in wanting a tense political thriller about how people would respond to a crisis, I feel like it's lacking. I don't know. It felt like a strange exercise that didn't have to be a feature-length film. And I just felt kind of strange watching it. Like, I kind of respected it. I respect what it's doing as this, like, it's almost like when a bunch of actors are put on like, turn a play into a movie and they're just reciting the play. And I'm like, I respect that you all came together to do this service. You know, it is interesting. You brought awareness to a play that maybe a lot of people wouldn't have seen, but I don't totally know why it had to be a movie. I felt that here, where it's like you brought awareness to the security protocols that are in place and how easily things could go wrong, and all the different layers of government and chain of command and FEMA and the military and, you know, cabinet members and aides and information and intel, like all these different things. And at the end, I just kind of shrug and go like, okay, I guess that is what happened. That we can talk. Maybe we should do a very brief spoiler section, because I think how this movie ends is kind of important to touch on in some capacity.
Here's the question, Stephen, for you. Re-ending.
Yeah.
Is this one of those times where it's better to know how it ends than it is to be surprised by how it ends?
Yeah, it's true. Maybe for the good of the world, we can spoil that one thing and decide that it is better for any viewer to know. I'm willing to do that.
Okay.
Okay. I'll go. This movie ends when the impact is about to happen. We do not know. We do not know what happens afterwards. We have no idea. Yeah. The movie ends just at the end of the third loop through the timeline.
The whole thesis of this film is like, yo, the entire world hangs in the balance, and it's 12 people who just decide whether all of Earth stops existing. And this movie stops before the decision.
Right. Yeah.
It doesn't even do the cliche thing where it's just a montage of all the nukes in the world firing off. It stops before anybody makes a call. It just goes like, City A may be gone.
Yeah.
Maybe the whole world be gone soon, but we're not going to tell you.
We just recorded a review of After the Hunt, and Christopher brought up that that movie After the Hunt seemed to want to have the water cooler conversation of what would you do in this situation, who would you believe, and it kind of failed to do that. That ending certainly does that. Like, if I saw this in a group of people and it ended the way this movie ends, I would walk out of the theater going like, what do you think could have happened? It clearly wants you to have the conversation of what do you expect, you know, there's something at play here where, like, there's an old adage that, like, if you want to make a decision, you should flip a coin, and before it lands, you'll know which you're hoping it'll land on, and like that's how you make the call. And there's a sense in which this movie is kind of asking you, like, what decision do you hope gets made? But with all that said, like, to me, well, I'll actually let you talk about the movie before I go even further. What did you think of A House of Dynamite? Because my answer is I'm a little bewildered by it, and I don't feel very satisfied.
Yeah, so I had not seen a single thing about this film. Didn't see a trailer. When you brought up that it was playing at one theater in the city, I was like, oh, Kathryn Bigelow has a new film out? I was like, yeah, if I could fit it in.
The first one since we reviewed Detroit like 8 years ago. It's been a long time.
Yeah, so I was like, yeah, I'm game. And it was like the name of it, and then eventually, like, when I had to get it, I saw, like, you know, an image, and I was like, oh, okay. I was like, oh, this must be about, you know,
Rebecca Ferguson.
She got out of the silo, and now into a different kind of silo. So I was like, okay, I kind of have an idea of what I'm getting into. And you know, for the first third of this film, I was like, I kind of love this. Like,
Sure.
I love this. Like, it is so clinical, and you just go like, oh fuck, yeah. Like, you have 16 minutes before impact if a country across the Pacific Ocean launched a nuke at us. And for the first 4 minutes of that time, you would be like, oh, I mean, last week one went up and came down. This one's probably going to do the same thing. And it's like, by the time you make a decision that it's actually coming at you, you've already used 1/3 of the time you have left to respond to that thing. So I was like, this is interesting what it's doing. I'm totally vibing with this. I'm kind of loving it. I love everything about what this is doing. This is kind of amazing. This is great. And then it goes, and I go, huh? I'm like, you're just going to show me the same thing again, not just from different people's vantage point, the same fucking people who were in the call that I just watched. It's like, this is an EOC call that is like, everybody gets on board and you're like, oh shit. And then it's like, oh no, I'm just going to show you everybody who had their camera off now. And you're like, okay, but the conversation is the same conversation, just from literally the other side of the Zoom. How am I possibly going to get up to the level of intensity and emotion that I had the first time by the end of this time? And you know what, Steven? I was there.
Oh, yeah? Okay.
By the second time around, I was actually there. And I was like, how did it do that? And then all of a sudden it goes, boop. And I go, what? There's no way a third time I can get to the level of intensity and emotion I was.
My refractory period is much longer than that.
So I'm like, there's no way. And then, you know what? God damn it. I was there again somehow. Wow. And I was like, I don't know what this movie's doing, but it's working for me. And then it goes, poof, directed by Kathryn Bigelow. And I go, you've got to be fucking kidding me. I was like, you just edged me 3 times. And just fucking walked out the door. I was like, you've got to be fucking kidding me.
This recounting of your viewing experience was more of a roller coaster than the movie was for me.
Yeah, I was at the point this movie ended. There was only me and one other dude in the theater, and we both kind of sat there in stunned silence. And then we started gathering our shit, and just didn't make eye contact as we walked out of the movie.
As one does when they've been edged 3 consecutive times.
Yeah. So I will say, this film is really good at the exact specific thing it is trying to do. The problem is nobody in their right mind would try to do this specific thing. This is the thing that gets you to the idea that you're actually selling, which is like, how does one come to a decision that has this much of a ramification to it, and how could you possibly make the choice? And this film says, I don't fucking know. I'm going to end before somebody makes a choice. That way, you don't have to know. You don't have to find out whether I picked rare, medium rare, or well done. So,
yeah. I mean, it's when I think about it, though, like the ending. I was not expecting that ending. It's kind of weird. You know, I'm a Sopranos fan, and in general, I tend to like things that like end and leave you hanging, you know? Yeah. I was not expecting it to end when it ended at all. I was so certain that like we were circling in on the decision point, and now we were going to get something. At the same time, when I play out any alternate ending, I don't know if it actually satisfies either. Like, I don't know what could. The way it feels like Kathryn Bigelow has structured a movie where you cannot be satisfied. And that's like kind of the point, you know? Like, I think this makes a compelling case, which I just don't think needs making because it's so obvious to me, which is that nuclear war is stupid and a zero-sum game, and disarmament is the only right thing to do because the moment there is a crisis, it's already too late. It's too late for any good outcome. Nothing would be satisfying. Nothing could possibly be good. And the only way to win is not to play, as Wargame learned decades earlier. I don't know if the juice is worth the squeeze for this movie. And it's interesting because when you were laying out your experience of watching this movie, every time it looped back, you got there again. Yeah. And I didn't. I was there the first time. I was not there at all the second time. I was like a little bit kind of there the third time just because I'm like, okay, you were doing it 3 times. Now let's give me the good stuff.
I want to know how we got a British president.
Yeah, exactly. How did this happen? Why does Jared Harris not have a British accent in this movie? I'm so used to him having a British accent in the movie.
Yeah.
When is Jason Clarke going to get cucked? Because according to Blank Check, it happens every time he's in a movie. Luckily, Jared Harris follows his typecasting, so that's good. Some people, I won't spoil it.
Yeah.
But for me, it was bumpy the whole way through. Like the first act was pretty damn good. If it were just a linearly structured movie. And I feel like I'm spoiling more than I normally do just because I think people have to know how this movie goes. Like, if this were a normally structured movie where it's like something got fired, they do manage to intercept it, but then other things start to get fired and it unravels more and they're trying to figure out what to do, and that tension just built and built and built, I would be like, this is a powder keg of a movie, and goddamn, does Kathryn Bigelow know how to build tension. The moment the loop back happened, I would say it kind of lost me and never got me back, because I just think even if it did build the tension again each time, even if I had hit the same peak that you hit at the end of round 2 and round 3, I still would feel like 13 to 14 minutes of those 19 minutes was wasted, because it's just like, it is giving so much superfluous information. And occasionally we get something, right? Like in the first go around, we hear an argument taking place on the Zoom call, but it's happening in the background while Mission Control is sorting out other stuff. And then in round 2, we hear the full argument. So it's like, okay, cool. You're showing me something I didn't get to hear before, which means you're going to build to how a potential intervention is going to take place. And this is going to build up. So then in round 3, we're going to know what ultimately causes a decision to be made. And you're going to like layer things in a staggered way where in the end they culminate in something, but they just don't grow. They don't build.
But see, that's what I think the brilliance of this film is there is so little time to do anything. And half of your 16-minute call is trying to get everybody on the call.
Yep.
And it's like, it's like, oh, I'm sorry, you're muted. It's just like, it's like, yeah, fucking the people in charge of not letting the world die are also just a normal business meeting. And everybody hops on the call and thinks it's a normal, like, oh yeah, this is just a routine, whatever. And that's the thing too, is everything requires something right before it to either have happened or not happened before you move on to the next step. So half of the 16 minutes is just, first half of the 16 minutes is just getting people on the call. The second half of the first 16 minutes is just waiting to see if the other thing has already happened so that you know what the next step is to do. And it's like when people are just sitting there going like people realizing that, when this thing launches, we know there is a missile launching. From there, it goes on to, oh, that missile is going suborbital. That means it has an actual target and it's not just a missile test. Then it is, oh, it's definitely going to the U.S. Then it is like, it slowly builds until you understand what the target is. And when you find out what the target is, it's kind of like, okay, that is a target.
Yeah.
If you care about, if you care about that specific target, your reaction to, oh my God, the U.S. is being hit is slightly different than somebody who's like, oh my God, the U.S. is being hit, right? So just slowly adding more and more pieces and more like of the kind of what would normally be a monotonous thing, but the heightened level that it is there, and like seeing certain reactions to different things. I don't know. For me, it worked because like maybe it's like goes back to my question of like, I would not just want to know, like my defeatist nature of like watching it sink into people as they realize how little they can have an effect on something. And like, you know, I have no idea how old the one dude who's trying to tell the president not to launch the nukes is supposed to be. But to me, it's like the college boy who's a tryhard who's like, this is why, Mr. President, we cannot launch it. But everybody else is like, all the stuff in the book says nuke every single country in the world. And it's like, this is not this movie is truly apolitical. There is nothing about this that is not just literally does the math play out. What is the game theory on what to do if somebody fired a nuke? This movie is a completely different movie if we know who fired the nuke, because it just fucking nuked those people and then hopefully nobody else does anything, right? Like this would be, but because they don't know the target, they have to say, we have to take an action as though we know who did it, but we don't know who did it. What if we guess wrong? And what are other countries going to do? When you were saying something earlier, I had this like hilarious galaxy brain idea in my head where like, what if each of the superpowers made the same movie, but from their point of view, but it all takes place at the same time? So like you could go to Russia and watch their version of this movie, where like it's just what they're thinking when possibly some, you know what I mean? It's just one of those things where like everybody has their own movie that ends when the first thing goes off, and then it's like, now there's a conversation piece, because right now you're just like, fuck this movie. But if you were like, oh, every country has their own version of this movie, but it's all taking place at the same time, and it's not just everybody made their version of it, it's like they all made the same movie but from their own vantage point. And then you start like pirating your copy of the Russian one and the Korean one and you're trying to figure out what the hell's going on, and then you watch all these and you're like, oh shit, mind equals explode. Like, I don't know. That's not what happened as far as I know, but would be pretty cool if it was.
It sure would. Yeah, I mean, like an interesting aspect of this movie, and it's like, it's a feature. It's what the movie is trying to do, is that hopelessness that you talked about. Like by the time the audience realizes what has happened, it's basically already too late to do anything reasonable about it. You know, like I think pretty much anyone, when they first watch this movie, certainly me, you see Rebecca Ferguson at the control center, and you see Anthony Ramos as the person in the area where the the defense missiles live. I don't know what you call them, the things that you shoot at the missile to try to make it go away. And there's this whole discussion that takes place around like, should we rearm it? Should we go again? What do we do now? And there isn't even, as far as I can tell, a verbal acknowledgement of we can't do that. There's just like an immediate hopelessness. And it's just up to the audience to be like, oh, I guess it's too late already.
And I think, too, this is not the same point you're getting at, but it's semi-related, is that, you know, this film is like 50 people or whatever, but like 42 of those people don't get to make a decision. They just execute the decision. So everyone else is like just waiting for somebody to tell them which button to push. And the button they have to push, depending on what somebody else's decision it makes, is wildly different than everybody else. And everybody is just doing what they're told. But like they just listen to the conversation until they have to take an action that somebody else decided. And that to me was also that's part of why the tension was there for me, is like just thinking of like, we are a fly on the wall on people making the decision, but there's people in the causal chain to end the world potentially that don't have a say in it. They're just the ones who are required to do the thing. Right.
They're just following orders.
Yeah.
And I mean, to me, there is kind of a false ultimatum in this movie. Like the thing that everyone says is basically like, either you fire back at someone and hope that you got it right, you know, or else you have essentially said that it is okay to nuke America without recourse, and you send a signal saying that. And no one at any point is talking about the idea that like, maybe you could send that signal after investigating further or collaborating with people or trying to identify who did it. Like there's no room. And I understand if the assumption is there will be immediate follow-up, like no matter what, in the next hour, the world will be on fire. Sure, I get it. But like no one is pointing out that you could like even Mission Impossible, like Final Reckoning has this conversation of like, how do you potentially handle taking damage while signaling that like you are not an aggressor and try to find it so other people can like also be willing to do the same, you know?
Yeah.
That conversation doesn't happen here, which maybe is realistic. Like maybe no one would talk that way. Maybe there are too many like military bigwigs or whatever in power, so no one would even discuss potential diplomatic or PR channels to try to get you out of the nightmare. But it's just weird to me that it doesn't come up at all.
But I think, and obviously I am not trained in any of these strategies, but I think the idea is that if you were trying to do a preemptive strike, you would just fucking obliterate the United States, right? But if you're trying to see how we would respond to it, you fire one, especially if it's from an ambiguous location and the U.S. won't know where it's coming from. Then it's like, how do they respond? Do they literally go scorched earth, or do they wait and see? And if they do wait and see, now you know that you can maybe send another barrage and then take out like the centers of power and everything,
right,
without immediately having the scorched earth thing. Because if they've already stood down, then all of a sudden when a shit ton of rockets fire, it's going to be a thing that like, now it's going to be, oh, but we were waiting and now we can't wait. What do we do? So I don't know. I think that I think the idea is that whoever fired it in this film, it was a gambit that the response wouldn't be, it's like, fuck it if the whole world goes, because the whole world went. But if the whole world doesn't go, we just like made like a decisive strike, and now we can go from, you know, I don't know. There's
yeah. I guess it's just that is supposing one possibility, but the movie allows for others. Like there is the possibility that this was a fluke, or that it's not actually armed, or there's also the thing that Idris Elba keeps saying is like, if we do nothing, we're signaling to the whole world, to all of our enemies, that the U.S. will lie back and take it, which is a different concern than the concern of what if the enemy doubles down immediately? What if they're already preparing to double down? You know, there's more PR considerations that they're talking about that don't really get a lot of airtime, which, whatever, maybe that is accurate. Like maybe in this sudden instinctive moment, that's exactly what people would do. I also just have to say, in another thing that I believe to be accurate, and I find it horrifying, if you have a thing that has a 50% chance of stopping total annihilation, if you fire two, that is a 25% chance of stopping annihilation. If you were to add, let's say, 3 more missiles, you'd be down to like a sub 3% chance. Like the math, if that is actually the policy, is just 2 attempts, that is like horrible math on what you should do in these situations.
Well, that's the thing, is that like people theoretically know how many are out there. So you can't put all your eggs in one basket to stop a basket that only has one egg in it.
Right. But I feel like this movie makes a pretty compelling argument that if you fail even once, the world is fucked anyway, you know?
Also, the most interesting thing to me about this whole thing is the idea that, like, all the ones we made, and they're just sitting there, they might not even explode when they hit something.
Right.
So it's like, you could fire a thing risking global nuclear war, and it hits and it is a dud.
Yeah.
And now you gave them a warhead, and it didn't go off, and you freaked the world out.
Which is the most like nefarious thing this movie is doing by not showing us what happens, the decision being made. Because this movie, it makes an argument that President Idris Elba has to make a decision as soon as possible. And I see that argument. I see all of it. It cuts down to the second, which means he could at least wait and see if it fucking explodes before he makes a decision, you know? And the movie doesn't want us to think about that because it wants us to have the pressure cooker mentality the whole way through. But it's like, at this point, why not make the decision 15 seconds after the hour, you know?
Steven, did Han Solo wait to see if the blaster was going to go off?
Yeah,
it depends on who you ask.
I think in the special editions, we learned for sure he shot first. So we know what Han would do if he were president.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I can't tell. I wanted us to record about this, not even because I love this movie, because I don't. I'm actually quite frustrated and perplexed by this movie, but because it's just like, I felt like I had to talk about it after seeing it.
Yeah. Steven, are you saying you had to finish?
Yeah, exactly. But it isn't like I have to talk about this in a, wow, this is so juicy and makes me think about so much stuff. I have to talk about it with someone. I have to talk about why this movie is what it is. Like, why did it do this to me?
Yeah, really the benefit of having seen this movie is when nuclear war happens, I know how hard it was a decision for the people that made it happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
At least I can
and I'll
appreciate
think about that. Yeah.
When
in
my
a
phone
few
goes
seconds.
beep, 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 nuclear missile inbound, I'll at least think like, okay, I feel you. It's not easy for the people who may be on their way to a bunker somewhere.
I also, by the way, just want to say, this is, again, not going to bother doing spoilers. If I were Jared Harris and I'm making a certain decision, I might just like wait a few more minutes to find out what happened before I make my decision, because the chessboard might be very different than the pieces I'm reasoning about right now.
Yeah, well,
that's all I'm going to say.
I mean, you know, his highlight of his like day, week, month maybe was playing 9 holes of golf. Mm-hmm. So I don't think he had a lot going for him.
That's true. That's true. Yeah.
All right, should we get to what is it, verdicts for this film?
Sure, let's do it.
Cool. Thanks for listening, everyone. That was a joke.
Nice.
About...
I got it.
What if we did just end the podcast?
Yeah, just end without verdicts.
Not give him a verdict.
It's honestly perfect.
All right, Stephen Miller. Yeah, I guess I have to actually ask you the question before we just end the episode with no verdicts. I have to say, Stephen Miller, if you're going to give this a must-see, record with the caveat, wait for until past the caveat, or a must-avoid, what would you give it?
Okay, cut. But no, okay, we'll actually give reviews or verdicts. I don't fully know what I want to say, but I know it won't be higher than a wait for rental for me. I can't tell if I'm so frustrated with this movie that I'm going to give it a pass with a caveat because it feels like a lot of squandered potential, or if I at least admire the craft and the commitment. I guess I'm going to go with admiring the craft and commitment and give it a wait for rental. It is an interesting experiment of a movie. It is doing something, and it is 100% committed to doing that thing. I just think that thing is not continually building tension. I don't think it's revealing more as it goes on. I think it is just very, very, very objectively showing you all the different levers and components. And if you are just a big fan of the process of how things work, this movie will be very interesting to you. If you want a thing billed as a political thriller, I think you will probably be disappointed. So if you listen to this whole review and you want to watch the movie, I think you should go watch the movie for sure.
It's definitely, it would be like if you watched, what's the Matt Damon Stuck on Mars movie?
The Martian.
The Martian,
That
yeah.
is a hilarious movie to not remember the title.
Why did there, remember when there was like 1,000 movies about Mars? There's like Mission to Mars, and then there's like The Red Planet, and then there's like a bunch of these Mars movies. I couldn't remember the Martian title. But this is like if you just read a Wikipedia summary of the actions that his character takes in The Martian, that is like the equivalent of what this movie is. So it's like missing the like yeah, I'm making potatoes with poop, like kind of like funness to it, and it's really just the clinical stuff. for some reason that totally worked for me. I cannot wholeheartedly recommend this to anybody though, because I think I've told this anecdote on the podcast before, but there's this like a quote unquote joke where you spend like 10 or more minutes telling this long story about this father who kept every single time the child had a milestone would want to gift them 3 pink ping pong balls. And then now the dad is like dying and, on the deathbed, the kid says, I just need to know why you were so obsessed with 3 ping pong balls. And then the dad dies before he can explain what the whole life was dedicated towards.
Right.
This movie is sort of that joke as a intense nuclear war film. I love what it is doing, or I love that it did what it did. I don't know if that justifies the movie's existence. But it was 100% successful at what it intended to do. I enjoyed the watch, was perplexed by the ending, and because of the ending, I can't recommend it to people. So it's wait for rental for me. But I did vibe with what it was doing, and I felt it in the moment. I just didn't get to complete my experience with this film.
Yep. That's fair.
All right. Well, that is going to do it for this review of A House of Dynamite. Stephen Miller, people want to find you throughout the week. Where can they do that?
People can find me on Blue Sky at sdavidmiller or sdavidmiller.com.
People can find me at ChristopherMillerLife.com or ChristopherIRL on a number of social platforms. You can find the podcast over at thespoilerwarning.com where you can get a bunch of the back episodes of the show. If you want to subscribe to the show, you can do so on Overcast, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, or wherever podcasts are found. If you want to know when the episodes go live, you can follow us at twitter.com/spoilerwarning, facebook.com/thespoilerwarning, or instagram.com/thespoilerwarning. If you want to get a hold of us directly, you can send an email to fans@thespoilerwarning.com, or you can use the contact form on our site. Music for this episode will come from a track selected from artlist.io, so hopefully you're enjoying that. We are done. We are going to take off, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.